Shall we begin?
Talker Tuesday.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
Western Conference Finals, though. Timberwolves Talker Tuesday as we howl. Good morning and welcome to 9 to Noon. I'm Paul Allen. Nordo produces. Courtesy of TimberTech and TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to Noon will include Minnesota Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve about 45 minutes from now. The professor of hoopology, Double T, Trent Tucker, shortly after 10. And he will be in the 651 Carpets Plus studios to discuss the Western Conference Finals pairing between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks. Then Ahmad Hicks from Fox 9. He's an elite basketball mind. He also will be in said studios at about 11 o'clock. And we welcome you to a Timberwolves Talker Tuesday. Joining us now is a man who shares kindness, joy, humor, and altruism by day, and he howls by night. He is Jim Petersen, analyst of Timberwolves basketball for KFAN and Bally's. And Jim, good morning. It's Paul Allen. How are things? Well,
I like that you added the KFAN part to my resume.
No, I mean, I heard you the other night. So unless you're doing it for free, which really would take altruism to a new level, then you're an analyst for KFAN and Bally's, and
I love it.
Well,
it's great. We're having a great time. It's been a wonderful time for everybody. And PA, if you would have been at Ball Arena, you'd have been blown away. Guardsy was there.
Yeah, I know.
And the cheer, and you could hear it through the TV, right? You could hear the cheering when Ant would make a play, or when Nasri got the tip dunk, and Towns got the putback dunk at the end. I mean, like all these plays that were happening, the noise, the cheering, and Jamal Crawford actually made mention of it during the game too. Like it was so great. And just, I was kind of waltzing around before the game, like up in the stands, because I had friends at the game and some people that had flown in. So I was going around and seeing people, and the amount of Timberwolves gear in the stands at Ball Arena was breathtaking. And Finchie even made mention of it too post game. Like he could just like our crowd travels well. I mean, not Iowa Hawkeye well, but because that's insane. Like how those Iowa people show up at venues. But it was really, really great to see how many Timberwolves fans were in Denver.
The at Jim Pete Hoops, that's Jim Pete Hoops. That's where we follow him via Twitter. Follow him as 9 to Noon does, please. He's played in the NBA Finals, and he's an elite basketball mind. And the first thing you tweeted right after the game, right after Game 7 at Denver, which you just mentioned, was, quote, "I'm so happy." I mean, right after the game, you hit the X machine with that, man. So just stream the consciousness, open the heart. Why were and are you so happy?
I was just happy, like all the people cheering, and the emotion from the coaching staff and the players and how connected everybody is. doing the game with Horton, when I first started, working with Chad, I was on KFAN and coming over and being I just remember all the stuff we did together, PA, at the beginning. I mean, we kind of started at the same time. And you in Dubai and like all the connections with like everything, it just brought me back to the beginning of when I first started. And it kind of just like things flash in front of your eyes. And then, when we interviewed Mike Conley post game, just talking with Mike and what it meant to him and just like his speech at the beginning of this playoff run to the players of like, how fast time flies by and, do this for me. Like when they came back in that game and Mike just hit 2 shots in the second half, but he hit these 2 big threes. He hit the corner 3 and he hit one as the shot clock was winding down. And all the plays that they made, I just felt like this team was a team of destiny. So I don't know. I literally like started tearing up for a second, and but it was like happiness though, and all the hard work and stuff you go through, all the trials and tribulations. And I was thinking about Tom Hanneman because his son Kyle, texted me. And, it's funny. I was talking to Kevin Harlan before game 1 of the Denver series. I went over and talked to Kev and Kyle had texted me before the game telling me that Kevin Harlan had texted him and he was thinking of Kyle and his dad, Tom, before game 1. And it meant so much to Kyle. And so I was telling Kevin about this, how much it meant to Kyle. And so it just was, I was just thinking about Hanny, so it just, when you're going through these kind of runs, there's so many people you think about. And I mean, I had about 170 text messages on my phone after the game too, and they kept on coming in afterwards. So it just, as you can imagine, PA, you've been through this too, when the Vikings have some of these big wins. I can't imagine what happened in Buffalo for you. When they won that game in Buffalo, unexpectedly, the text messages you get. So that's what's so great about sports is the emotion that you share with so many.
That was beautiful. Now, listen closely to this because I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. Because you tied that exultation and that joy and then a 1,000 text messages and interview requests and stuff like that, which don't happen year round, NFL or NBA. So this is abnormal, what's happening right now, and it's born of joy. So here's the question. What was it like, say, an hour and change, Jim, couple hours after the game, when the cameras and microphones were gone, and all you guys were together talking about the game or the season or the Mavericks? I'm talking about the coaches, the players, Greg Farnham, the inner workings of the covenant, and all the cameras and microphones are gone.
Well, we jumped on the plane. We're on the bus, and things are different now. The groups are so much bigger that we travel with than what 20 years ago. The last time we were in a Game 7. I mean, we had 2 buses. We've always had 2 buses, but the players and coaches are on one bus, and we're on the other one. 20 years ago, and our bus was, maybe there was, 15 people, and very few. Now both buses are packed, and the players get on our bus. Like we're the first bus to leave, and so we want to get ahead of the coaches. The second bus take a little longer, so our bus is packed. We're almost 2 by 2. And so there's team docs, and Sheldon Burns is on there. The trainers are on there. Players are on there. And you'd think it'd be more boisterous than it actually was. The players were really talking a lot about the game. They were laughing and enjoying the moment, but they're not, it's not like going out throughout the bus. On the plane, I'm sitting next to Grady and people are filtering back and we're all cheering, but it wasn't like crazy. I think that what the difference is that there's still a lot of work to be done, and nobody wants to assume anything. So, yes, people were enjoying some libations, but it wasn't as crazy as you might think.
Right, and the reason I asked is after you referenced the Vikings Buffalo a couple of seasons ago, or say there's a playoff victory or another big victory and you're flying home, is people will text me or ask me, boy, that flight home must have been a lot of fun. Well, it's not that it's not fun, but the players and everybody are so exhausted after the game.
Exactly.
It's like the player, everybody, a lot of people are sleeping. The coaches are in their Microsoft bits. There may be a card game, but probably not. But everybody's just so tired after the games. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's 100% right. And that's generally what I was, and people were happy. Me and Grady were, we're sitting there like we talked the entire way back. You know what I mean? Like, and so if that's just two of us, but as coaches came back, because like we're in the back of this Delta flight, right? So, and the charter is configured in such a way that, we, the media, I hate to say media because I don't consider myself media. I don't consider Grady and I'm media.
Correct.
We're not, but we're not team employees either. We're Valley employees, but we're still part of the group. You know what I mean? So it's all first class seats back there, and we're back by the can. So if you want to go use the restroom, you got to come by Jim Pete and Grady. Grady's on the aisle, I'm in the window.
Yeah.
And like people come back, and we would chat with Micah and Joe Boylan came back. All the coaches kind of filtered back, and we exchange high fives and pleasantries and talk about the game a little bit. But it's just like there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
So that's the greatest thing about this team is that I think they have perspective. They're staying humble, even though they have fun at the same time. And Ant is just creating, all kinds of buzz. The bring your A thing. They started with Charles Barkley is hilarious.
Yeah.
I just love all the things that are coming out from this team, and it's so entertaining that I think that Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to become a favorite for America during this playoff run.
And that what you said last, by like you're sitting back by the galley, and like Joe Boylan walks by or Micah Nori walks by. That's what I was talking about. Where it's like you see him for a second, you fist bump, but that's when it starts with like, gee, what do you do with Luka? And then you get a little 30 right there, and then they come back, and you're like, wow, Gafford and Lively, and boy, PJ's playing good. Then you get a little 30 seconds right there, and off that, quality guards off the dribble. Now, it was Booker with Phoenix and Murray for Denver. Dallas has two of the best in the game. In fact, it's probably the best 1-2 in the game for guards, just multifaceted, three-point shooting, dribbling, the whole thing. This side of Boston, at least. How does one handle that, Coach Pete?
You put Anthony Edwards on Kyrie Irving, and you put Jaden McDaniels on Luka Doncic, and you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker waiting to come off the bench to apply more pressure when he comes into the game, because Nickeil might be better than either one of those first two I said in screen navigation. So the fact that I loved how Ant was defending Jamal Murray, by the way, because a lot of times you don't want to go under the screen, because a lot of times in the NBA, if you go under a screen, you're going to get rescreened, and now it's lower, and now the 3-point shot's more in play, and they can get a closer 3-point shot. The level of the screen and how you navigate the screen determines a lot what happens. And so for Ant, a lot of times in the scouting report, when they talk about, how we're going to defend wing picks versus mid picks, sometimes you say just like quickest path, right? Like get through it. Just get through it. Like don't get stuck on it. Don't get caught. And Ant was just getting under the screen quickly and getting back in front of Jamal Murray. And sometimes that's better than going over the top, because when you go over the top, now they're going downhill. And that's where Luke is so dangerous. So Jaden, he also has the ability to do that, but I just think that we have a group, and Mike Conley's also very good. I don't think Mike gets enough credit for being as good as he is defensively. He's a great game plan defender. He's always in the right spot at the right time. And even though he's not the biggest, just being there early and on time is just so valuable. So we have more excellent perimeter defenders, and you might even be able to include Rico Bear in that realm now, because switching and covering for him on the perimeter is now one of the best things that he does. So I just think we have a unique skill set in that regard.
When I say Coach Pete, Jim Petersen at Jim Pete Hoop starts 9 to noon on a T-Wolves Talker Tuesday. Speaking of Coach Pete, Cheryl Reeve joins the radio show in a half hour. What was it like being a coach on her staff?
It was phenomenal. It was challenging. It was she challenged you every day. It's why the Lynx were great. I mean, it's obviously you have to have transcendent players to be able to win championships. You have to have a certain amount of luck as well to build a championship level team. Like, the Sacramento Monarchs folding and Minnesota getting Rebecca Brunson was a stroke of luck, right? Having the number one pick in 2011 and having Maya Moore be there to be chosen, and she's like just a transcendent player who is a generational great player of her time. And so you got to have that luck. Lindsay Whalen was a trade that she orchestrated. Simone Augustus was already there. Getting Sylvia Fowles was also a deal that she made. But so we had talent, but PA, I'm telling you, I played for great coaches, and I worked a while as an analyst. But when you become a coach and you have to sit there and stare at that computer screen, and then Revo would challenge me in terms of how are they guarding this? How are they guarding that? And when you watch a game, you can watch it passively where you're just kind of just watching it and paying it, just enjoying it. And then when you actually look at how people are guarding stuff, how do they guard with this combination? How do they guard with that combination? She made me see the game in a much deeper way. And she's one of the smartest basketball coaches I ever been around, because she didn't leave any stone unturned. And so her attention to detail, and that's what she would get so frustrated with some of these coaches, because she'd say, if you just would spend a little time to have attention to detail, you could win a lot more games than you do. And so what I learned from her more than anything was attention to detail and how important that was. And she did it every single day. And she was so competitive. That's another thing too. That's what makes Finchie so great, is that Finchie's competitive fire, and Ant made mention of it post game, of how he does not let people get away with anything. And Cheryl would undress Maya Moore like Finchie does Anthony Edwards.
Wow.
And I think that's the key, is that you got to be competitive, and you got to inject that into your players, and you got to make them do it. And the other thing Cheryl did so great, PA, and this is something, I don't know, it's something that's always stuck with me, is that she made Lindsay Whalen, Simone Augustus, Maya Moore, Rebecca Brunson become vocal leaders in the team huddle and help them become managers of the team, because the coaching staff can't do it by themselves. They need the players. The best teams are the ones that police themselves, and Cheryl made that happen too. So she just is a phenomenal motivator and basketball mind.
Jim Petersen, 9 to noon. The maturation of Karl Anthony Towns has been quite impressive, and you've seen every one of his games, over close to a decade. What sticks out to you from Karl Anthony Towns' start to where he is now?
It's a great question. I was so impressed with Karl when he first came into the league, just watching him at Kentucky. One of my favorite skill sets of his was his ability to run the floor. He could really pick him up and put him down. When his first training camp, watching him, I just was so impressed with that. And it's still a good skill set. I don't think he uses it as much as he could, because I think he's looking to be the trail a lot of times, in transition. Rim running isn't what it used to be. I think rim running was a much bigger skill set that you would see guys do. It's one of the only ways that I got to score was to run the rim. I would try to get out in front and try to get a pass over the top and try to get a layup, because they weren't going to run anything for me. It's one of the things I love about Naz Reid is how he runs the floor. Rudy too. I don't think Rudy gets enough credit for what a conditioned athlete he is, the way that he runs and puts pressure on the rim in transition. But Towns' ability to stretch the floor, I think this year for me, he's really improved the complaining part of it. The thing that would, it would hurt us a lot in transitioning, because we're playing 5-on-4 because Karl's back complaining. He's not falling down as much. I think he would attack the basket, he would fall down a lot. Again, that's another situation where you're outnumbered because he's on the ground and the team's going the other way.
Right.
So he's kind of extinguished some of that, which I think is really important. But more than anything else, I love how he's now sort of redefining for national media who and what he is. This playoff run is people are seeing that he does have defensive chops. I think that he's now like what he did in Game 7 in a closeout game. Well, the last 2 games. I mean, Game 6 he played awesome too, and the way that he was able to defend Nikola Jokic. I mean, this is where legends are made. This is where your legacy is built. And now even we that have watched him every day, Paul, I think you're thinking the same thing. Like Karl is redefining who he is in everybody's mind, and what he's done during this playoff stretch, having to guard Kevin Durant and now Nikola Jokic, 2 of the greatest scorers in the league. And it might be the 2 greatest. I mean, might be the 2 greatest scorers. I mean, Luka Doncic is certainly up there, and maybe Cat's going to get a shot at guarding Luka too. But I just think that Cat has really redefined himself. I'm so proud of him because he's a great person. You know, I'm so happy for him and his dad, and losing his mom, how emotional that's been for him, but it's just a great family, and Karl's just a great guy.
How about this, Jim Petersen? When you played in the NBA Finals, all right, so we had Tri-Towers. We had Olajuwon Sampson and Jim Petersen. And the Boston Celtics would have Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and, Larry Bird, power forward, could shoot from anywhere, but he still was a big guy. So now, think about this series coming up, man. Gobert, Towns, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Daniel Gafford, the rookie Lively, and P.J. Washington. I mean, that's going to be like a wrestling cage match with the physicality, right?
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I mean, Gafford and Lively are different than Towns and Gobert and Naz. I think that our 3 and P.J. Washington, you mentioned P.J., that's not unimportant because he's an excellent 3-point shooter. He's played very well for Dallas. He's going to be a problem. And people may not know P.J. Washington very much because he played in Charlotte to start his career, but he was one of those Kentucky, plug-and-play kind of guys. He's talented, and so he's going to be a problem spacing the floor. But Lively and Gafford, Daniel Gafford has given us a lot of problems when he was in a Washington Wizards uniform. He's so athletic, and he's such a both of them are so perfect to play with Kyrie and Luka because they're such excellent screeners, and they get in and get out quickly, and they get to the rim, and they're lob dunk threats. So as much as Dwight Powell had hurt Minnesota with Dallas over the years playing with Luka, these 2 guys are Dwight Powell on steroids, and they're so athletic. And so it's going to be the chess match in pick and roll game, how to defend, pick and roll game on there's all different kinds of things we can talk about in terms of strategy. But anyway, it's going to be a problem. And so screen navigation is going to be very important, and how Minnesota gets through screens and tries to stay in front of those 2 great ball handlers and sticking with these bigs at the rim. P.J.
Washington has become an agitator, and I don't know how closely you watched him in the playoffs so far, but he has some agitator to him. Have you noticed that? Do you think it'll factor into the series?
Sure. Yeah, I've noticed it. PJ he's a problem. There have been times during this playoff run for Dallas where he's been their best player. So, it's true. And then, Derek Lively was the reason why they won that last game against OKC. I mean, right. Shea did foul P.J. Washington at the end, and he knocked down those free throws, which is big. But Derek Lively, man, he was a problem. I don't know if you saw that last game against OKC, but he was getting all the offensive rebounds. Minnesota's going to have to rebound. One of the keys in these 2 series that Minnesota had against Phoenix and Denver is that the team that controlled the glass won the game. So Wolves crushed Phoenix on the glass, but against Denver, I mean, why they were so good in Denver is that they rebounded the basketball at a higher rate. So the rebounding numbers in Game 7 were not in their favor. It was they were getting blown out in second chance points, and Minnesota really crushed them in the second half with all of that. But that's going to be a big factor for me in this series with Dallas PAs. Is they got to rebound the basketball. They can't let Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively crush them on the glass.
All righty. Time for 2 more. The first of 2. Luka has to be the mark for the Wolves defense. I mean, that's the way I see it right now. He's elite, but doesn't have much interest in playing defense. Do you find that to be accurate?
Yeah, they don't have anybody that can guard Ant.
Right.
I mean, who's going to guard Anthony Edwards? Right. I mean, that's and I think that Luka can be taken advantage of on the other end. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, he is not interested in playing defense, looks like to me. But I think it's going to be very interesting now that we've got a sort of revved up Jaden McDaniels. Like, who are you going to put Luka on?
Right.
So that's gonna be fascinating. Like, I just love this Jaden McDaniels we're seeing right now, because those last two games, I mean, like, I was so proud of Jaden, man. Like, I can't tell you, like, all the stuff that he's doing now, and I think he's got a renewed vision of himself. I just think this is going to be very, very interesting, because, you know, Dallas is a very talented team, obviously, but I mean, who Luka guards is going to be very interesting.
What makes Kyrie so tough? Kyrie Irving,
his mindset,
yep,
his shot making, his handle. The fact that he's really kind of like really picking times when he's going to start exerting his will on the game. Like, he's not really competing with Luka right now. It's like, you know, it's like you always think of, is it going to be, how are you going to play these two guys together? Because they're both kind of ball dominant, but Kyrie's deferring, and I think that his ability to redefine himself. I mean, where would you have put Kyrie in terms of players you wanted to have on your team when he was in Brooklyn?
Right.
I mean, like, I just think I know people that have been in the Brooklyn organization that when you ask them about Kyrie Irving, if you would want him on your team, they would just kind of roll their eyes, and we're not crazy about that concept. So Kyrie's done a good job redefining who he is too, right? I mean, he's a lot different player in your mind now that he's kind of refashioned himself in Dallas and become a great team player with Luka. And so, I mean, Kyrie's ability to turn it on, turn it off, his handle is going to be amazing. But I just think Ant is ready for all of that action, man. I just think Ant is so ready to stay in front and take on the challenge of defending Kyrie Irving. That's going to be a fascinating one-on-one battle as well. You're
fantastic. Love you very much, man. Thank you very much for the time and the elongated chat. And tomorrow night on KFAN, I can't wait to listen to 98.3% of the call. I'm sure all of it's going to be unbelievably good, and I'll see you soon, okay?
Love you, PA. Okay, bud. See ya.
Appreciate you. Jim Petersen at Jim Pete Hoops. My man went to the NBA Finals back in the day and played Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics when he was very young in his career with the Houston Rockets, making up the Tri-Towers of Jim Petersen, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Ralph Sampson. That's beautiful. It's all part of TimberTech and TimberTech.com, and what's on deck around the corner will be a non-Timberwolves related segment known as Vikes Bites, and a J.J. McCarthy-related proclamation I feel needs to be made at this moment. So we'll share that around the corner. But first, here comes the wonderful Wizard of Con to share the cash thing, and good morning.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Use the keyword green at KFAN.com. You might win $1,000. The keyword green, KFAN.com.
A couple of things have transpired during this terrific yet at times tumultuous Timberwolves run. One, it's the greatest news the slumping Minnesota Twins have received all season.
Yeah, I always love that one.
That the Timberwolves are on fire, and a few know that not only did they get swept by Cleveland, but what the Ratty Natties did to them yesterday should be a felony in 48 states.
All they do is lose, no matter what.
I know, and they ain't hitting again. But secondly, Vikes Bites has been shelved for a little bit because of Timberwolves segment after segment and stuff like that. So 9 to noon has opted to bring back Vikes Bites today, and with purpose. And it's provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. You can find their product, local co-op, local Coburn's locations, and, of course, they're big Gophers fans. Dinkytown Athletics. When you support Thousand Hills, you're supporting not only great meat, but elite athletes staying local. Big part of their business. They love supporting Dinkytown Athletics. Thousand Hills?
All right, tell me what you think of this.
Hardcore football.
It's the dots of Darnold connected themselves for me beautifully last week.
Are they dots of Darnold, and are they divine dots?
They're dots of Darnold for now.
Okay.
Because, I haven't studied the older part of the Gridiron Gospel, so therefore I don't know what part of that I can tie to the New Age Gridiron Gospel. But it will reveal itself when he starts in the first game of the season against the New York Giants. But for now, the dots of Darnold that were connected for me involved a week or X amount of days where whether it's watching ESPN, it's hearing something on KFAN or Sirius NFL radio, or reading things online that just pop into my life or our lives. And it's post-draft and it's going to happen. And people need to fill segments the way they want to fill segments. But the talker has been, and the dots of Darnold last week led me to Friday and something Dan Barrero said when he had Ben Gessling on the radio show to right now. It's people wanting, obsessed with, or wondering or predicting when J.J. McCarthy will start.
Right.
So it's, whatever iteration of NFL Network is airing these days. I mean, RIP Good Morning Football's like never on anymore. And there's no more NFL Total Access, and they may shack up with ESPN.
Yeah, it sounds like they're kind of trying to. I don't know if they're trying to crater the, not intentionally.
Yeah.
But this property that they own, this massive platform and resource, getting zero run.
It's unbelievable.
And zero utility out of it in the midst of what is always a busy spring and summer in the NFL.
Right. So this isn't even NFL Network, because if they're not showing a Dallas-Washington game from 79 or Vikings-Packers from 09, well, then I don't know what they'd be showing, because they don't have any commentary on football anymore. So a lot of it's ESPN. A lot of it is just like headlines and then stories popping up when I sign on to the computers here. And the dots of Darnold connecting are this, where I've heard a lot. These are respected NFL minds. I mean, like Dan Orlovsky with ESPN, he said something similar several weeks ago that the Con used in Vikes Bites. And what it is people projecting or guessing or speculating or predicting when J.J. McCarthy will get his first start.
Right.
And I've heard people say, well, it's going to be week one. You're going to have an off-season phase. I think 3 of the organized team activities begin this week. Rookie camp, rearview mirror, mini camp less than a month from now. Then they rest and they chill. Then they get together in training camp. And, what is perceived as, let's say, a 4-horse race between Darnold, along with Mullins and McCarthy and Hall.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's not the case.
No.
So that's part of the proclamation, is that there is no horse race here. Okay, because you have... Well,
it's like a couple of Baffert horses, and then Tiger D rolls in. Now he gets to be in the gate.
Yeah.
And he gets to maybe trot around, do the warm-up and all that.
Yeah.
But it's the main two, I think, that most people will be watching.
Well, and off that horse racing analogy, you have those who have run in races and know how races are run. Then you have one who kind of knows how they're run, but early in one of the races, he bowed a tendon.
Oh.
And then, down at that racetrack in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then we didn't see him until we saw him, and then he got left at the starting gate, and everybody lost by 1 million, and then we didn't hear from him again, at least until now. But there is one of them who, in essence, with the horse racing analogy the producer just produced, is one of them was purchased for an extremely large amount of money at the Keeneland 2-year-old sale in Lexington, Kentucky, and he's ballyhooed. And his pedigree is that of excellence. And his performance at lower level racetracks, he's just killing everybody. But this is a different level. So that would be J.J. McCarthy. But I heard, some people saying, well, he'll start week one. Okay, that's a grandiose, grandstanding type prediction, but I've made those before, and so has everybody, and nevertheless, it's going to be wrong. Then the majority of people, either seeing, hearing, or reading, is October, is expect J.J. McCarthy to take the reins of the Minnesota Vikings by October.
I've always thought that's because of the London game and then the bye week that corresponds.
I heard that.
So it's kiddies out of the bye. I mean, this schedule is doing nobody any favors.
Yep.
And if it's Sam Darnold starting, which it sounds like it should be and will be, that
right.
he's gonna start his days in purple with a gauntlet the first handful of weeks. But I've always thought that that's why it was so. If he doesn't win that job right away, well, man, if things go south, you got that early bye week and an opportunity maybe to get some extra reps for the rookie.
Yep. Understandable. I mean, I've looked at things like that too, and that would be the low-hanging fruit way to look at it, is get him ready, go through training camp, preseason games, have him be the scout team quarterback or whatever, raise him behind the scenes, and then really, hammer it down and hone in on it during a bye after London, and then let the horse run then. Now, what I heard Friday on Bumper to Bumper with the Scribe, Ben Gessling with Dan Barrero, weekly guest, Dan said when talking about Sam Darnold, and it was beautifully laid out, when talking about the inadequate days with the New York Jets, or to a certain extent the Carolina Panthers, then a backup with Next Level Shanny, and what could be next. Barrero laid it out like this. That's the beauty of how these beautiful mysteries unfold. Sometimes you just never know. Now, that's quite simplistic, but this is a beautiful mystery because you have a third overall pick who's absolutely been labeled a bust by many in the National Football League, who receives an opportunity that's in front of him right now to play with players and skill levels with whom he's never played in his life. So that's been discussed. Yours truly will share, this is on Sam, okay? It's the staff matters, the players around him matter, but this is on Sam Darnold, man, with what's in front of him here, because he knows how to play the game. He started like 50-some-odd games or whatever it is, but there's pressure on him. But nevertheless, if you can't handle heat like this, then you're at the wrong level. So this is on Sam, what's coming up. And that's part of the beautiful mystery. That was Barrero at 4:37 on Friday with the Scribe regarding Sam Darnold's potential with the Minnesota Vikings offense. So here's the proclamation.
Hardcore football.
Sam Darnold will play every single game for the Minnesota Vikings this season unless he gets hurt.
Oh my gosh, can you above average?
Let me repeat myself. And this is not team steam. I'm not speaking for the team. I'm doing my job at FM 100.3 KFAN. Sam Darnold will start every single game for the Minnesota Vikings unless he gets knocked out or he gets hurt. And that's completely fine. They absolutely will not unfurl J.J. McCarthy until he is absolutely ready. Not close to ready, not by faith ready, absolutely ready. And that also is with the belief that Darnold is going to perform in a way that leads to, as Kevin O'Connell would say, winning football. Now, I don't believe they would have signed him to the 1-10 or brought him in if they didn't believe he could start games and lead to winning football. But they'll play winning football with Sam Darnold. The beautiful mystery of the when and why. When will J.J. McCarthy play, and why, as in what will lead to it? So that could be loser season. That could be Darnold getting knocked out of a game. And that might not even be McCarthy right there. That could be like Nick Mullins. Because this is such a valuable, prized asset for now and the future that it needs to be treated with kid gloves with a kid that's 21 years of age and like 4 months into being 21. So remember when 9 to Noon shared regarding what Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison told yours truly. They both said the same thing, but a little differently. I had no idea Sam Darnold could spin it like that. Okay, now that's important to remember as we move forward. And you see, that's pretty much all we have to go off of now, at least 9 to Noon devotees, and that J.J. McCarthy is an investment expected to provide a high yield. But the crop blossoms when it's ready. Football doesn't have a form of miracle grow to sprinkle on these cats. They watch, they study, they listen, and they grow. Look at Anthony Edwards. Different sport, but the maturity aspect still plays. At age 20, he was throwing away playoff series to John Morant. At 22, he's being compared to Michael Jordan. And with Darnold and, what could lead to McCarthy playing is just remember Cousins took hits and always bounced back. And we're going to see how that works out for Darnold, who will need a running game and will need a defense early to catch stride and play confidently. But if I believe a winning season is coming for the Minnesota Vikings and winning plays are required to be made during a winning season, specifically offensively, then the take here, the proclamation from yours truly, is unless Darnold gets knocked out of a game or they've lost a zillion in a row and, now it's maybe by faith, put JJ in for a little bit, Darnold will play every single game this year. Cheryl Reeve of the Minnesota Lynx is next. To a howl of a different variety, the Minnesota Lynx, and here is Coach Cheryl Reeve. Cheryl, it's Paul Allen. How have you been?
Good morning, PA. I'm doing great. How are you?
What's going on there, the lady they call Revo? I want to call you Revo. I mean, I had Jim Petersen on to start the show, and I asked him some technical question and ended it with Coach Pete. And then I'm like, speaking of Coach Pete, what was it like being on Cheryl Reeve's staff? And then, Jim, super kind and altruistic. So, he was quite complimentary of you and of what he learned about attention to detail of being on that staff. But he kept calling you Revo. And I've seen you a million times all over the place. Can I call you Revo?
Absolutely. Call me Revo. Jim Pete was one of my all-time favorites. Anybody that knows Jim Pete, knows, just his passion for what he does and just a people connector and all those things that you mentioned. And so I loved our time together. Well, you have you have a fistful, a handful of WNBA championship rings. So in the vein of Bill Belichick, when he was describing how you handle coaches and players with attention to detail, it sounded like Revo Jack. I mean, sound like Bill Belichick up in this thing with the attention to detail. That's obviously very important to coaching, but like uber important to you, right? I wish I liked Belichick more. I'd really be excited about the compliment.
I understand.
But no, I that's long been kind of, it's a little bit Virgo. Anybody that's a Virgo knows, like that attention to detail, critical of little things and, critical of myself, critical of others, that sort of thing. So that's long been my way, as a player, as a student athlete, et cetera. And so I think Jim always really appreciated that, though in the early years, that was kind of like a push and pull and, but when he got going, he was such a great assistant coach. I think coaching really gave him a different lens to see the game through as he calls games, and that attention to detail. I think Jim always appreciated that. He always appreciated accountability. The willingness to hold your best players accountable. Which is what we're hearing out of Wolves camp, that I think it might have been Ant who was talking about hold everybody accountable. Finchy does. And that's just something that I think that's always been paramount importance of any successful team that's trying to compete for a championship.
Right. And on that point, I'm glad you said that because if you're coaching the great Maya Moore super, super hard and, say you speak with the media and you're like, well, she made it because Finch does this with Edwards. Well, he made an immature play. He played immaturely in that moment. And maybe with you, it's like, Maya made an immature play. And then media will go to the locker room and be like, Maya, Ant, coach just said that you played immaturely. And they don't even really know the context except for the example of the play. But I can't speak for Maya because I don't remember it. But with Edwards, he's like, yeah, I know. I mean, we've gone over it 15 times. That's my bad. The ability to be surrogate mom, surrogate dad, along with the boss, and have it resonate. I mean, that's the complete goal of the job, right?
Yeah, it really is. And I know what we have found through the years, and I'm sure Finch would say this as well, great players want to be coached. They want to be held accountable. They want to be pushed to reach their greatest heights. And a player like Maya, who was obviously just prolific and the Hall of Famer, et cetera. I remember, of course, the game, I'm probably a little more critical during the game than maybe NBA coaches are. But I had a media member ask me, why do you yell at Maya all the time? And it's like, well, because she does so much wrong. You guys have no idea what we're trying to do. And,
right.
But Maya and others, I mean, we had great players, Lindsey Whalen, Simone, Brunson, Sill, many through the years, J-Mac. Great players want to be coached and pushed. And you've got to surround yourself with those type of players, to really achieve. The ones that don't want to be held accountable, can't hold themselves accountable, they're not going anywhere with those players. And so I've been blessed to, have the great fortune. Nafisa Collier, there's nobody in the league that I believe can accept, she's self-critical, but that can accept coaching as easily as she does. Literally just tell her one time and boom, there she goes. And so, just her response to being coached, and it just makes the team special. Gives you a chance to really achieve great success.
All right, yeah. So you guys are undefeated to start. Yeah, you went bang bang with Seattle. You're 2-0. Thursday, 6:00 game at Connecticut. So against the Sun, and there are a few things there that I want to get into, and I'd like to get a Timberwolves a question or two in with you. But lastly, just on this overarching kind of organic topic, Cheryl or Revo, when it comes to challenging them every day. Specifically the players, specifically this generation of woman. How do you challenge them every day?
Well, I think it's there's an art of communication. There's an art of relationships that come with the ability to do that. Again, the first part of it is the selection of people that we spend so much time on in the off season. You've got to have the right group that is coachable at the core of who they are and selfless, et cetera. But I think the relationships that you have, the challenge, and in terms of they have to want to do it for you. There can't be a beat them over the head with it type of thing. Whether that's your line of work, PA, whether it's an accountant or any other line of work. Leaders have to have an ability to get people to want to do the work. Some days are easier than others, no question about it. It can be a grind in accounting, in your line of work. It's just the nature of it. So understanding them as people, what motivates them as people, I think is a big part of that. And you have to do it every day. There's just no way around it. And we certainly, we do our best to, try to be all the things I mentioned.
Now, you mentioned Nafisa Collier, and through two, both against Seattle. Holy cow, she had a 6-steal game and a couple of blocks in that game, too, with 9 rebounds and 29 points, and that was the most recent game. It also was the home opener against Seattle, and you played her 44 minutes. Just overall from not only her, because you spoke glowingly of her, but I think you guys are averaging 6 blocks a game through 2 games. I mean, seriously, you keep that pace up, and I mean, teams might be scoring in the 40s against you. You know what I mean?
Well, that was nice. I mean, it's a nice improvement over what our last 2 seasons have been defensively, really since Phil. Sylvia Fowles was one of the greatest rim protectors that we've had. Yeah. And so I think the pairing of Alana Smith, as well as Nafisa Collier, they've been getting great work, what we call being airborne defenders at the rim. So not necessarily they're 6'6" and swatting shots to the 4th row. They're in timely help side position, and they're meeting a player at the rim and going vertical and airborne and forcing hard shots. And their length is really impressive. And so they're able to get pieces of a shot worst case scenario, altering shots. And so that's crucial for a good defense. And we're off to a good start in that area.
So Cheryl, I mean, exactly how many players do you have who, when they go back to Connecticut, to Mohegan Sun, like used to play for the Sun? I mean, it's like right before he came on, and I know we have, what do we have here? We have Courtney Williams, Bridget Carlton. There are several others too, right?
Yeah, Courtney. Well, Natisha Heidemann most recently was there last year. I mean, Bridget Carlton was in 2019. Yep. She was a draft selection and didn't make it out of training camp. So I don't know. Can we really say she played for the Connecticut Sun? She spent a brief amount of time there, and we picked her up, and we've had her since. But Natisha Heidemann last year. Courtney Williams spent a lot of her career there. Terrific playoff runs, being in the finals, et cetera. So we do have a couple. With Natisha Heidemann being the most recent.
Yep.
And then we used to have Rachel Banham, who was a part of it. Now Rachel's back in Connecticut. So lots of connections between the two.
Now with Collier, and she played for the Yukon Huskies, so she was with Oriema. When you get players from that program, what are you getting?
I always say this. I think probably a UConn player when they come. If you've never seen them before and you just go play 5-on-5, you're in the gym for the first time, you will notice their ability, what we call to just play. So that doesn't have to be scripted. You don't have to tell them where to go. And so offensively in particular, that they keep moving. Now, Nafisa Collier had that prior to UConn. That's one of the reasons I believe that they signed her, that they recruited her and signed her. She just never stops moving. And at UConn players understand how to play what we call counters. So like it was supposed to go over there, ideally, but the defense took it away. What do I do next? And UConn players possess that. And I think that their staff, Gino, at the head of it, has prided themselves in that for many, many years.
Do you have a 10 o'clock meeting? Because I have one more question.
No, let's do it. Let's get it in.
Cool. Here we go. Now, the Wolves coming into this series against the Mavericks, and I know you watched the games or some of the games, but what do you think so far through two series, beating Phoenix and Denver, Revo?
Man, I don't miss a game. I'm watching. Just in terms of as long as we're not playing, I'm watching. And the Phoenix series, I took particular joy in. I'm not sure if Jim Pete talked about it at all, but our time in playoffs, just through the years, and that's been a team. We've played each other a lot. I'd call it a rivalry. We see it as a rivalry. The team that we like to get out there and compete with, and been many, many years. And so when I was watching, the Wolves play the Suns, I had like visceral reactions to the moments where you could see that the Wolves broke the Suns. You could see it. You could feel it. You could see their faces. And so like for me, I just get really hyped in those situations. And so that incredible, sweep, and really super happy for Glenn and Becky, that they're watching this level of basketball. Then you take it to this series, no question about it. I said, man, first of all, it was a crazy series, just a crazy series. The way that the Wolves went there in those first two games and what they did. And now I think lesson learned. I think the staff will tell you this as well. Maybe a younger team kind of going up 2-0, starting to read all this stuff and hear all the stuff that's being said about them. They're going to sweep the Nuggets. We didn't come out with the same edge in Game 3, the same desperation. And, we're fortunate, that Game 6, obviously, we did that again when people started to write us off, saying it was over. And then go there in a Game 7, play the first half that we played. I knew Finch would fix it at halftime offensively. That was a big thing. Once we got that fixed and we started, kind of getting away from, okay, it's going to get doubled. He's going to hold it till the end of the shot clock, throw a grenade to somebody, and somebody else have to try to make a hard shot. Once we stopped doing that, and we played through some other people, got off ball a little bit, we started doing that. Well, then that leads to, better defense. Now your defense is set. Ant started kind of going, hey, okay, I'm 6 for 24, whatever I am. This isn't my night necessarily with that. Let me make some plays defensively. And he got after it. And, man, you could just see they got back to their identity. And what a hell of a win on the road against, that's a really, really good Denver Nuggets team.
Right.
Obviously defending champs. And so I'm excited for this next series. And, one game at a time. I sure hope the guys are not listening or reading, and people have them penciled into the finals, winning championships. I mean, my goodness, we've got a long way to go.
All right. Lastly, Connecticut's on next Thursday. There, it's on Bally Sports North if people want to watch. When you watch the Sun to get ready via the All 10. And you see Caitlin Clark for the Fever because they played yesterday. What do you see in Caitlin? How is she fitting in?
Well, I think she's doing great in terms of look at her numbers. I just think there's this awful, unrealistic expectation of people that haven't followed the WNBA that are Caitlin Clark fans, that they just don't understand how hard it is. And, Caitlin continues to try to express the same things that many people have expressed. It's a different game. It's grown people. They're physical. They've been playing professional basketball for years. All that being said, I think Caitlin's done a heck of a job. Thought she looked great last night against Connecticut. They're going to find their footing. That's a very good Indiana Fever team. They just need some, what a schedule. They're playing every other day for like 18, 19 days, 2 back-to-backs in there. And so, I have all the confidence in the world, that Caitlin will continue to have this upward trajectory, and she's a heck of a basketball player.
You're terrific. Best of luck. Travel safely, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, PA.
Yep. Thank you, Cheryl Reeve, coach and president of basketball ops for the Minnesota Lynx. If you'd like tickets or to learn more about the team, WNBA.com is the best place to start. Double T, the professor of hoopology, joins us in studio next.